welcome to the Marriage Kitchen. We are so excited you're here.
Very, very excited that you're here. This is Module 1, talking about the right utensils to use, not only in the kitchen, but with your marriage and how you communicate with each other.
If you don't have the right utensils, you can't make a healthy and delicious meal, and you cannot make a healthy and delicious marriage. And the right utensils, we're going to start this entire process off with communication, because it is the backbone of a good marriage.
It's the central piece to having a great marriage is being able to communicate in the different ways that you can communicate with each other.
And also you'll find that all of the Marriage Kitchen, it is an incremental program. So it builds upon itself. And we are dedicated to walking with you, whether you're doing it as a couple or whether you're doing this by yourself. We are dedicated to walking you through every single module as it builds on itself. And we are 100% confident you're going to get amazing results in your life, in your marriage, in everything.
It
truly affects everything.
Yeah, it does. It really makes everything brighter and more vibrant within your marriage and with your whole family.
Yeah,
actually.
And you're going to find these effects as you grow, and as you grow as a couple, you're going to find it trickles into every area of your life. So let's get started. And we're talking about communication, so tell them what we're going to make today.
Today, we're going to make tacos.
Not
tacos.
Tacos.
That's just
silly. I know. He came up with it, so if it's a bad joke, it's his fault. Yeah. Because you got to talk.
Yes.
You've got to make sure. And we're going to also talk about today, communication is so much more than talking, really.
Right.
All the different aspects of communication. But we're here in the Marriage Kitchen, so let's get a meal started. Now, this is normally a fish taco recipe, but he hates fish.
I'm not a fish guy.
He's
I
not.
never have been. I'm not allergic to it. I don't
So
like fish.
I thought you'll find as we prepare dishes, everything has a metaphor.
Right.
So instead of just saying, well, if you don't like fish tacos, too bad, I guess you're not eating, which sometimes that is how a marriage gets. It's like, my way or the highway. You have to be willing to bend. You have to be willing to tweak things and to make them a little different.
Right. And that's why we're going to prepare both fish tacos and
chicken tacos. So what I did here is I got chicken breasts and I sliced them up into smaller pieces so that it will, I'm a mom, okay, cook faster when you have hungry kids.
Right.
And also it's easier to tear apart and shred later. Now, with the fish, you want a white fish. So you can use mahi-mahi. I love that. You can use halibut. I use cod right here. So start with a white fish and some chicken breast. And what I did was I sprayed the bottom so it would not stick. And I don't like to use chemicals in my cooking at all. So what I actually use, this is weird, algae oil.
Algae oil.
I know, it's weird, but it's healthy. It's very good for you. So yes, it's straight up, no other ingredients, no surfactants, whatever. I don't even think I'm saying it right, but it's just a better oil. Or you can just really grease the pan. Coconut oil on your hands, smear it on there. Now I have avocado oil in here. I put this avocado oil in a little, I guess like a squirt bottle.
Yeah.
Do you call that a squirt bottle?
Yep.
And I'm just going to drizzle this over the chicken. You can do the fish. And I'm just drizzling this avocado oil over the chicken. So much easier.
I'm learning as you guys are learning about the cooking. I am definitely not a chef. I can cook a great peanut butter jelly sandwich. However,
I don't like peanut butter and jelly.
That's why I don't make them.
There you go.
So I'm learning just as much as you guys are. So this will be kind of fun for me.
I'm so impressed. You're natural. You've been hiding this talent from me.
And these are boneless, right?
Yes.
So that's one thing we didn't say. I think chicken breasts as well as the fish are boneless, so you don't have to worry about picking that stuff
That's
out.
right. Now, you're going to cover both of these with a taco seasoning. Now, you could use the packets, but we don't do that because what you have to do in a marriage when you're cooking, you want real ingredients. Right. This is what we're talking about in the basics of communication. Now, society has a tendency to distort and pervert things, and well, this is how you should communicate. You don't want to get any of those contaminants into your communication.
Right.
So what's important is that you stick to the basics, make sure it's authentic, make sure it's godly, make sure it's based in truth and not the slippery slope of what our society thinks is right. Hope you can catch that because it's very important. Now this is taco seasoning. I make my own taco seasoning because if you notice, if you read the packets, and you got to read it carefully, it's got like, sometimes it's got monosodium glutamate in it. It's got other different colorings and additives. You don't want any of that. Just stick to what works and what's tasty and healthy and good. So these are all different ingredients. I'm actually going to read these to you so you know what they are. And yes, I do have notes. We're real. Very real here.
Very real people.
So this is what I had to write it down because I always have to. Are there recipes like you always have to go to? Whether you know it by heart or not, you always have to go to it. So I've got here. I'll put this down right here. So
Okay.
You can probably see it on the camera. So it's got chili powder, ground cumin, garlic powder, onion powder, or you can use like dehydrated flaked onions, red pepper, oregano, paprika, paprika, black pepper, and sea salt. Now, the cool thing about this is you probably already have a lot of these on hand. I'm just going to mix all these together. Can we just bask in the beauty of how gorgeous that looks?
That was wonderful.
I know, beautiful. So we're going to mix all that up. And then we're going to spoon it on top of you can finish mixing that up and spoon it on top if you want to. And just put, basically make it like all of it. You can put all of it on there. You can be really generous with this. It's delicious and nothing in it is bad for you at all.
It's not too spicy either. It is. It gives it a little kick.
But if you like it spicier,
Yep.
just up the cayenne pepper, up the red pepper. Like that's all you have to do.
Right.
If you don't like it that spicy, leave it out. Doesn't matter because
Okay.
chili powder's.
So I'm just going to start to sprinkle it
Yeah,
over?
go ahead
Okay.
and sprinkle it on top. You got it. And then we're gonna get this, we already have the oven set to 350. And don't worry about writing this down because you have all the recipes. So we're gonna include that with your notes. You have all of this. So we've got the measurements for you, everything.
Am I too light
That
on
looks
this,
good.
or is it
That looks good. Yeah, it looks good.
Too
And
much?
then,
Too good?
no,
All right.
put a little bit more on that one. Yeah, that looks really good. I'm gonna go ahead and get this in and then
Yep.
you can put
Just
some
make
on
sure,
the
yeah,
fish.
you cover everything up.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to do the fish.
Now, tackle that fish, baby. And again, you have the oven temperature, you have the timing, everything in your notes. Fish, if you start with it raw and not frozen, it will cook more quickly than the chicken. So you have to keep an eye out for that. And you want to cook it just until it's done, and then we're going to flake it
How's
apart.
that?
Put a little bit more on top of that one.
Which one? This one?
That one, yeah. That looks so good. All right, cool. Let me
Awesome.
get that in there. And you can move that over there out of sight.
I'll move it out of sight and
Sure.
out of mind.
Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make the tortillas. Now, I need to tell you something. It was so stupid. Something that I did that was really foolish is I had a beautiful, I like saved up my money and I had this beautiful, do you remember when I had that tortilla press? It was so nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I like saved up my money. I wanted this tortilla
was
press
really good.
so badly. And I finally bought it. I remember it was like $79 and it took me months to save up that much. I bought it and I stored it away and I made tortillas a lot. Like I would make them a lot. And then one time I got on as you probably have yourself, on a decluttering binge. Like I was basically, if it didn't move in the house, I was tossing it out. Like I was just like getting rid of everything. Well, one day I was decluttering the kitchen and I just started pulling things out and sticking them in my boxes and taking them away. And inadvertently, I gave away my tortilla press. So it's good fortune for someone who came across it in a thrift store. But when I went to make tortillas, I was like, oh no, like the tool I needed is gone. Why I'm sharing this with you is that communication in a marriage is one of the most overlooked aspects of marriage. And I read a stat, I don't even think I shared this with you yet. The average married couple spends less than 20 minutes a week talking
with each
talking.
other. That's just
That's
amazing.
that averages out to about like less than 4 minutes a day. So communication is vital.
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't that right?
But
4 minutes a day, like 7 days a week, 7 times 4.
No, it's a lot less than
Oh,
that.
it
It's
is
like 3
less than
minutes
that.
a day.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Well, that's something
I love the help I get. I don't. When it comes to math, I don't always have it
But
right.
yeah, I mean-
I saw your eyes. You're like, wait, that's not
That's
right.
not the right, yeah. Bad math. What we see, I mean, we'll see this when we go out to a restaurant or we'll go
Totally.
to a movie or something like that, and you'll see a couple, not with a family, just a couple, whether they're on a date or just having dinner, and literally not talking with each other. They're not speaking.
This is what they're doing.
They're just. Oh yeah, they're just through their phones. But I've even seen it where couples that are not.
I'm not on their phones, but they're just like kind of in their own world.
Yeah, just sort of staring off into space, not talking the entire time that we see them there.
I want to share something because this is on my heart right now. Is that in a marriage, sometimes you just get complacent and you get comfortable and you rationalize it by saying, well, it's good that we can be in a place and not have to talk but still be together. Mm-hmm. That's really just an excuse for not actively working on the skill of communication.
Right.
So it is the most vital aspects of your marriage, but it's the most overlooked. I totally overlooked my tortilla press, ended up losing it. Yep. So what I'm telling you right now is we're going to make tortillas that you don't have to use the tortilla press for.
That's awesome. And they're actually really, really good.
They're really good.
They're really
My kids were calling it Mexican crepes because I use a recipe because I don't eat grains.
Right.
I have a really healthy recipe that I use to make tortillas, and we make them quite often. So I'm going to move the blender over here.
I'll get it over here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. And what we use is almond flour, almond milk, or you can use like coconut milk or flax milk or regular milk, whatever. We don't do a lot of dairy, but so I use almond flour, arrowroot flour, eggs, and almond milk. So I'm going to show you how easy this is to pull together, and I actually have all the ingredients right here. So, and believe me, we are going to get on communication here. We just got to get this meal started.
Yeah.
Oh, and a little bit of salt. Okay. So first, I'm going to put in my 2 eggs. Do you want to crack those eggs? Get them in there. And another thing about these tortillas is, I don't know if you're like this or not, but I have this belief that the first crepe or the first tortilla or the first pancake always turns out bad. I have no, does that happen for you too? Yeah, I have no idea why that's true, but it's like that first thing on the griddle or on the pan, it's like it has to just go through the fire for everybody else. Like it's kind of like the oldest kid. Like you just have to pave the way for everyone else. Right. You're the trial kid. So what we do is 2 eggs. We put about 3/4 cup milk, and like I said, I'm using an almond milk, unsweetened. Make sure you use unsweetened because it would taste like a sweet crepe.
Right.
I put a cup. Let me show you I'm doing this right. Yes, cup of almond flour, a cup of arrowroot flour. And you can find this in a grocery store usually, or I just order mine online because it's cheaper. Amazon Prime, baby. I don't know what I did without it. How did we exist without that? I don't know. And then I'm going to put a little bit of pink Himalayan salt in there. I just usually do it in my hand, but this is about half a teaspoon. Now, if you can turn on the pan right there.
Yep.
And you can use this oil. I'm doing a
100%,
black.
you want it all the way up?
Yeah, black cast iron skillet, and just drizzle some of that oil in there for the test tortilla. Now this just takes a minute to put in the blender. It's gonna be really fast. It is loud. It is loud. Okay, that's all. Now I'm gonna pour this batter because we're also gonna use this for a chipotle sauce that is out of this world. I'm gonna put this in here, and you can rinse this out if you don't mind, so we can use it for the chipotle sauce.
I'll be back in a second.
And then I'm gonna go over here and just make a couple of tortillas to show you how it's done. And did I get a spatula? Yes, it's right here. Okay, what is the best way for me to do this? Let's see here. All right, I'm gonna put one in and then show you how I do it. Okay, so I put a little bit in the center, and then I rotate the pan around to spread it out. That looks really ugly, but you get the point. And yes, I will definitely do another one of those because that looks so weird. Do you want to grab a plate?
Yeah.
Okay. This is real life, y'all. Real kitchen, real life, real marriage. And these cook really quickly. So you don't want to like put it on there and leave it. You want to put it on there and watch it because it will bubble up, and then you flip it over when it does that. So let's see how the test one does. Not bad at all.
Wait for a minute.
Not bad at all.
I want it. Eat it right now.
Also, what I wanted to show you about this, I know,
so good.
they're really good. Like, the other day I made these, and honestly, as soon as I put them down,
They were
people
gone.
were grabbing them and like dipping them in sauce. I'm like, guys, just chill. And also, they were grabbing them, sticking Nutella and bananas into them. So it's like the multi-purpose
Yes.
thing. Okay, turn that down to medium. So is this a good angle for me to show them? I want to show everyone this. So this is a messy tortilla. It's not perfectly round, but this is what it looks like.
Very
Okay?
much like a tortilla.
It looks like a tortilla. And that was the trial one.
That's a good one.
I know. Congratulations, trial tortilla. I'm going to make a couple more, but let me see. Okay. Let me turn this around. Wow, everything's going crazy. This kitchen's going crazy. Okay. Now, the first tortilla, it seems to never do right. Like, it's always kind of messy. Something's always wrong with it. We still eat it. So what I want to tell you about that is the first time you start putting these communication skills into effect, it's going to feel weird. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be not your normal routine. It's going to feel awkward. I'm telling you right now, stick to it because it is going to work. If I started with these tortillas, I remember finding this recipe. I tried it the first time. They were so bad. Do you remember the first time I tried
well, you
to
thought
do
they were
these?
bad. I thought they were great.
They were so bad.
They weren't that bad.
They were so bad. Let me flip this over. No, seriously, they were bad, but that was okay.
But they just got better and better. As you
Yeah,
kept on
because
going.
it got better and better. And that's really important that you understand this. The first time you start with these skills that we're going to discuss,
Yeah,
it's going to feel awkward.
Things
it's
will
going to
feel
feel
bumpy, feel not normal. But if you continue to practice, and this is a theme that you'll see going throughout the entire program, is that if you stick with it and you keep in the practice, you keep in the lessons and continually work with it, things will get more and more natural and actually become sort of a normal way of doing things.
weird. And I am still cooking up these tortillas.
You're on your third one already?
Yes. So we're going to get started with the slaw. I'm going to make a few later, but a
tortillas?
few more later because
Okay.
I know that the kids are going to smell this taco meat cooking and everything. They're going to be in here. So we're going to get started with the slaw. We're going to
Let
put
me
a
get the-
Baja slaw in with this. Actually, let's
me to
do
bring it
the
over here?
sauce
Oh, do
first so we
sauce?
can
Okay.
move this out of the way.
What do I bring over for that first?
Everything there. Everything here.
Got it.
Got it. All right. Sorry, I turned my back to everybody. Okay, tell them about that slaw, that chipotle slaw we're
Oh, the
making.
slaw is amazing. We
The Baja slaw, I mean.
yeah, it's just well, you're gonna have to make it. I can't wait till the
We
end of this
usually
video because
double.
I'm gonna eat all the props here.
We usually,
done.
this sauce that we're showing you is a chipotle sauce. And again, you can buy a chipotle sauce in the store, but it is
Sure.
not going to be as good. It's not going to be as healthy.
Or fresh.
Right.
I mean,
absolutely.
it actually does. It really, really tastes.
Yeah, it's so
so
good.
fresh.
And you can put this on anything. Like I've put it on salads before. I've put it on like
Well,
leftover chicken.
when we made it last time, we had a whole spread with the chicken and the fish and all the
Kids
different
went
vegetables.
crazy.
in it.
We had to double the recipe.
But we started running out of ingredients, but we still had the sauce that people were just slathering that on top of the tortillas
top of
and eating
everything.
by itself. So it's really good.
It was so good. Okay, I'm still making these tortillas. And this is taking a little more time than I thought. Okay.
all right.
So I'm going to keep an eye on that. And we have Greek yogurt and
Greek yogurt.
mayonnaise.
And mayo.
Yeah, in the fridge. So what we're going to
This
do with
classic
this
mayo
sauce.
right here?
No, I actually have two little saucers.
Oh, the saucers. Got it.
Amen. Thank you. Y'all, I love food. I just do. I love marriage. I love food. This just works. Okay. So what we have here is make sure you can see everything. So we have some Greek yogurt.
Right.
And also another thing is you need fat in your diet. So don't get like 0% fat. Try not to get a fat-free yogurt. Try to get a healthy, at least like 5% fat yogurt. Plain Greek yogurt, not sweetened, nothing. And this is half a cup of mayonnaise. And I'm not talking about like the jarred, you can make your own mayonnaise, but if you're in a rush, you can always find mayonnaise that all it contains is eggs and oil and salt. That is preferable.
The original
not all
recipe,
the,
not all
yes,
the time.
yes.
Not the Miracle Whip type stuff.
Right.
Real
We don't want to
original
diss any
mayo.
brands though.
We're not dissing any brands. That's just what the ingredients call for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So make sure you just get as natural and simple as possible. So what we're going to do, if you want to go ahead and do this, we're going to put half a cup of Greek yogurt, half a cup of mayonnaise, the juice of 1 lime, 2 chipotle peppers, and just put a little bit of that adobo sauce in there. That's going to be delicious. And start with that, and then I'm going to show you something about the cilantro that's going to apply to your marriage too.
All right. Now, where did you want me to mix all this again?
Put it on the blender.
In the blender.
Right here.
Only 2 peppers, but some of the sauce as well.
Right.
Right.
So you can use this, and
Oh, it just smells good already.
I know, it really does. Here's your spoon.
All right. There's 1 pepper. What happens if you over pepper this?
Make sure you have a glass of milk handy
Glass of
when
milk.
you eat it.
That's right, 'cause it will get
You
hot.
can use that spoon to get some of that sauce in there. That sauce is so good. Like at least 2 spoonfuls. It's going to be a little spicy, but it's delicious.
It is. It's got a little bit of a kick to it, but it's not one of those kind of things where if you're really against having hot and spicy food. It doesn't. It's not bad. Not bad at all.
Okay, we got some more tortillas going.
All right.
All right, we don't need this
All
yet.
this stuff goes in. Mm-hmm. So I should
Actually, we do.
probably get-
Okay, yeah,
Oh, here
he's
we
going
go.
to just use that spoon right there and get him in there. Now, he's going to juice this lime too, and we're putting cilantro in it. And I don't know if you like accurate measurements, but I usually just kind of go with like pinches and handfuls, and you like that, right, babe?
No, I
Just
I'll
making
use the
innuendos.
That's a later lesson.
That's right.
That's-
That's the other module.
Right.
Now,
No, I use the metric
just
system.
use.
I'm very, very
You're
accurate with stuff.
See how you're so different? Mm-hmm. Actually, we have a module coming up, the 4 components of cuisine that talk about the different personality styles. That's one of my favorites because it really helps you understand who your partner is and how they operate. Now, I have just a handful of loose cilantro. I'm going to put that in there. But I wanted to show you something because a lot of people get frustrated with cilantro and picking the leaves off in a recipe. But this is one of those, just like communication, it's one of those things where the more gentle you are, the better. So if you can just lightly place your fingers around the cilantro stalk and just pull the leaves, they come right off. And then you're
If
left
you don't
with
have
that.
fantastic nails like that, it can be a little bit more complex.
Well, I mean, you don't have to have fingernails, but you have to be
Just a
gentle.
light touch. Right,
Okay,
just squeeze
Joe,
these
go
in.
ahead and juice those limes in there. These
All
tortillas
right.
are looking good. Awesome.
Looks good.
And then we're going to put, after the juice of 1 lime, are you trying to get that all over me?
I squirted all over
Oh.
my face.
Over your face?
Yes.
I'm glad you have glasses on. That'd be
Yeah.
have you ever gotten like lemon juice or lime juice in your eye? That's horrible. Like pepper in
Yep.
your eye. Horrible. Okay. And then 1 tablespoon of raw honey. Again, you can measure, but I'm like squirt. Okay, there we go. Did you get that? It's like how long you hold out that word. Like squirt means like a tablespoon.
That's actually how she measures. She'll tell me how much milk do you want in your coffee? Just a little
just like
bit.
like bloop bloop bloop.
Yeah.
And then you want to put some salt in there again with the pink salt. This is so funny. I looked down at the recipe to find out how much salt, and I literally wrote down salt.
Salt.
I'll make sure I get the measurement before I put this in your notes.
Yeah, but it's basically like what? A couple of pinches that you just put in there?
Yeah. Well, maybe about like half a teaspoon.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and word that up. It doesn't take long at all.
Okay. Do you want me to? I'll just keep this over here for now. The pepper.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right. Blend it up. Here we go. How's that?
All right.
That look good?
Let me see. That looks delicious. So let's go ahead and
wanna
I'm going to
pour
get a
it into-
saucer to put that in so you
Yep.
can see what that looks like. It's so good. If you want it a little thinner, you can always add a little bit of milk. Can they see what that looks like?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
might go get some chips and start dipping it into it right now.
All right, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that. Just leave the rest in the blender.
Okay.
And let me show you something easy, what to do with this sauce, because you can have a spoon and you can leave it out there. Where's that spoon that you used? Is it inside the blender?
I put it over here.
Okay. And it will get messy. One thing I found is you can buy these little like squirt bottles online or even at a craft store and just put the sauce. Now this is kind of a thick sauce. So what I do is I cut the nozzle to make it bigger, to make it wider for the thicker sauces. And then you can just put it in a bottle, make sure it's labeled, and then they can, whoever, you, your husband, your kids, you can just pick up the bottle and use the sauce on your taco or anything else around here. And it's so much easier, less mess, less cleanup.
You'll
wanna-
note I'm the cleanup guy. Not that I'm being forced to clean up, it's just that that's my personality. I love to make sure.
Y'all, I'm serious.
Clean
It is a
kitchen.
blessing. Thank you, God. Thank you. You are so good. Okay. So when that goes all the way down there, just
Yep.
put this.
Put the cap
I
back
already
on.
cut it, and we'll put the top on. And then we got
Got
these
it.
tortillas coming. We're going to mix up this slaw, and we're going to be in business. All right, I'm going to move all this out of the way. And then we'll get started on the slaw. That looks so good. Look at that. And that would be like gone. You think it's going to last a long time. Once you get a taste of that,
You'll be gone.
that's
in a
all she
heartbeat.
wrote. That's it.
All right, let's do
Okay,
this.
there's
slaw.
more batter, but I'm going to make those later. Let me show you how to do this slaw real quick, and then we'll get started on everything else. There you go. There's the top to that. So you can actually put it in the fridge or something.
Got it.
Okay, we're going to make the Baja slaw now. So what you do is just get a bag, plain old bag of colorful coleslaw. But before you put that in there, I want you to mix up a sauce that's going to go in it. And what we're going to do is, again, with the limes. Like, I love
Limes are great.
it. I love it. So the juice, and you did such an awesome job on that last lime. You
Oh, you
want
want me
to
to squeeze
take
it
it away
again?
and
So
do
right
that
back
too?
into the bowl?
Right into the bowl.
All right.
Yes, we're going to make a simple sauce for the slaw out of limes and some mayonnaise and some Cholula sauce. It's so good.
All right, there's one.
That's beautiful.
There's two.
You're so strong.
It's a lime.
It's okay, baby.
All right,
Okay.
all set.
So you got the juice of one lime in there, and then we're gonna mix up. And also we can put some of that cilantro in here too. So if you'll grab the cilantro out of the fridge,
oh,
you
yeah,
can't
the-
have too much cilantro or limes. You really can't. Now we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise, and this is classic mayonnaise, free-range eggs, 100% avocado oil. These are the ingredients: avocado oil, egg yolks, water, distilled vinegar, organic cane sugar, salt, lime juice. I mean, it's pretty basic. You want basic ingredients. So I'm just doing, again, 2 tablespoons. So bloop and bloop.
2 tablespoons.
Bloop and bloop. That should be the ingredients. 2 shakes of Cholula. That's all you need. 1, 2. Well, that's pretty generous, but I like it. We're going to mix up a little bit of salt with that too. And do you want to get some of the some of that cilantro off of there and put it in there? I'm just going to mix up this sauce really quickly. And then we're going to mix all of it together.
Oops.
That's all right.
Sorry.
That's all right. Just one stalk at a time. One stalk at a time.
Oh, I was trying to
Take it
to go-
easy. One at a time.
So
And you can put as much cilantro as you want in there.
I'm not as proficient.
I bet you are.
You
I
just,
bet you are.
You were doing it so well with your nails.
Well, maybe you just need to grouch your nails just for the purpose of cilantro.
Not gonna do that.
Yeah, it'd be kind of weird. Okay, so that's good.
Is that
And
enough?
then just stir it all together.
Do you want any more?
Sure, it's cilantro. Like, of course you need more. It's awesome. And you're just gonna toss that all together and make sure all of the cabbage is coated with the mayonnaise, lime juice, Cholula sauce. Okay, and then we can just set this aside and get started with our points of communication. How about that?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
That's your coffee, by the way.
Yes. Gotcha. It's important. Okay. We're going to move this. All right.
Alrighty.
Got it?
Yep. We're
All
all
right,
clean.
cool. All right. Let's check on that chicken and the fish. Oh, it's cooking up so nicely. Our tortillas look great. The slaw is waiting for us over there, and the sauce is all made. Now we want to share some tips on communication that's going to really transform what you believe about what communication is and also how to make it an effective part of your marriage. Now, the most important thing is you have to understand. Now, a lot of people say, well, this is how you need to encourage communication. This is proper communication. But you can only communicate to the level that you communicate with yourself.
Right.
There is internal communication and there's external communication. External communication is what we say to each other.
Right.
Internal communication is what you're saying to yourself. And I just want to take a minute here. We could do like 15 modules just on internal communication. And I want you to think, what is the internal dialogue you are telling yourself all the time?
Right.
What are you telling yourself about yourself? What are you telling yourself about your spouse? Because sometimes if we could have like loudspeakers hooked up to our thoughts, it would shock us, because some of the thoughts are, man, nothing ever works out for me, or I can't do anything right, or that first tortilla is going to be a mess. You know?
Why doesn't she do this?
Yeah. Or my spouse is so lazy, and if they love me, they do this. And we tell ourselves things in our heads that we would never let out of our mouth. Well, sometimes we do let it out of our mouth because, the Bible says that what is in your heart comes out of your mouth. So when we keep those thoughts in our heads, eventually they do come out of our mouth, and we can damage communication. We can hurt our marriage.
Yep.
So number one, internal communication. What are you telling yourself? And I have 3 tips on this, 3 things to help you understand what to do about internal communication, how to handle it. Number 1 is aware.
Right.
You first have to be aware of it.
You got to be aware of actually consciously think about what it is that you're thinking.
Yeah.
Before you start saying or talking or whatever, but be very, very aware of what's going on inside of your own heart and your mind.
This is actually a process called metacognition. And when I first started doing this, I actually had, it was one of those old school watches like you get from Walmart for $10, and you can set an hourly timer. It was even before they had cell phones. Like, this is how long we've been at work. So if things don't initially kick off, understand we've been at this 27 years. So I had this old school watch with an hourly chime that just ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
And I would stop and I would just look inside, say, what am I thinking about? What thoughts am I holding right now? And when I first started this, it was thoughts like, this house is such a mess, or I don't have enough money, or just thoughts that were very damaging. So number 1 is aware. You've got to stop and look in and say, what thoughts are going on in my head about me, about my spouse, about my current situation? And after you perceive and aware, that's huge.
It is.
Some people say, if you say, what are you thinking about? Nothing.
Well, you always,
we do this. I'll say, what do you think about? He's like, nothing. I'm like, nope. Your mind always has to be holding a thought.
Yep.
So first, awareness. What are you thinking about? The second is acknowledge. So this doesn't mean beat yourself up about it. If you're thinking I'm always broke, if you're thinking the house is so cluttered, if you're thinking I hate my spouse, if you're thinking I hate myself, just acknowledge it. Wow, this is happening. And think about, where did this come from?
Right.
Because chances are the thoughts that you're holding in your head are the you've learned from your experience in the past. Maybe things never did work out for you. Maybe money was hard. Maybe you saw your parents struggle in marriage. So you often learn false beliefs from the experiences that you went through as a child. So just to acknowledge that, not for condemnation, but to say, where did this come from?
Right.
I wonder, am I saying the house is always cluttered because I always had stress of living in a messy bedroom when I was young? Or, where did this come from? It's a long process, but once you can get the skill down of that internal communication, you'll find you can communicate with your spouse so much better. Right. And the third one is simply affirm. So You are aware of it, acknowledge where did this come from, and affirm where do you want to go. So I believe, and so do you, that God has a plan for each of us, and it says in the Bible to prosper us and give us a future, a glorious future. So he has a plan for you, for your life, to lead you into joy, into abundance. Jesus said, I came that you would have life and have it in abundance to the full till it overflows. That's John 10:10. So he wants you to have an abundant life. So to affirm, you know what, this may be what my reality is now, but it's not where I'm going. Yeah. And to start developing those messages about where you're going. I love my spouse. My spouse loves me. We have fun together. We enjoy being together. Every single morning when I speak out my proclamations, every single day out loud, there's always proclamations I speak over us. I speak about how we always have fun together, about how we enjoy one another, about how we're always attracted to one another, and how we make each other laugh. So start with the affirmation. Start saying, where do I want to go in my life, with my surroundings,
with my spouse,
with my spouse,
with our marriage? Where do we want it to go from here?
Yeah. And start giving that more energy than you're giving the current dialogue.
Right.
Start replacing it. Right. So we could go all into that, but first we just really had to cover what that internal
aware, acknowledge, and
was.
affirm. The affirm thing, the affirm part of it. I mean, you can start that immediately, because I think every relationship, there are things that you want, places that you want that relationship to go, places that you want, sort of the positive nature of that relationship, how it will grow in the future. So putting together those affirmations, that actually is a relatively easy part of it.
Yeah.
I think the being aware and then the acknowledgement, acknowledging can be complex. Because sometimes, you get into a rut or something that you think is, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. The acknowledgement part, you can get overwhelmed if you're thinking about acknowledging every single aspect of every single thought that you're having. So as you get going into it, start off.
And you may not know.
Right, you may not know.
You may not be, I don't know where this came from. It's crazy.
Right, some of it
it's okay. You don't have to know.
Right, but taking the acknowledgement portion of this step by step. And not overwhelming yourself with every single thought, I need to figure this out, right?
Yeah.
Just take little steps to get into that. That way, as you practice, it will get easier, and you will be able to acknowledge more and where it may be coming from. Just don't try to overburden yourself at the outset.
Yeah, and don't think that this needs to take a lot of time. Like Blair said, just little steps. Like, I remember when I first started doing this, and I would be thinking, like, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted. The house is such a mess. I remember going down the stairs one time and thinking that, and just stopping and out loud saying, no. Like, just out loud saying, no, I'm not going to receive that anymore. Like, that's not going to be my reality. So it will grow, but first, the internal communication, we want you to make sure that is a focus of your life as we move into this course together. Now, the second aspect of communication we want to talk about, we want to go on into the external communication, but there's two different forms of external communication. There's verbal.
And there's nonverbal.
And there's nonverbal. There's actually a research scientist, Albert Mehrabian, back in the mid to later 60s. He did so much research on nonverbal communication. Basically, what you're saying without saying a word. And he found out, this is going to shock you. I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget. 55% of communication happens via body language.
Body language, how you're presenting yourself.
How you're presenting yourself. 38% happens through voice tone. And 7% happens in the spoken word. So basically, 93% of communication is nonverbal. Isn't that crazy?
It's basically what your spouse is looking at is how they're receiving the communication that you're bringing. So the words are so much less important than actually how you're presenting the content of your conversation.
So that's why we want to talk about nonverbal communication first, because it is 93% of what you're saying to your spouse. So just an example. So you can, let's say you came in after a hard day and you're like, hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. So definitely I'm saying I'm not good, and turning away from him, I'm saying, please seek me out and ask me why. Now, try it again.
Same thing. I could come in. Hey, how you doing?
So what he's told me is like, I had another hard day. I need some help here.
Right, and I also didn't make eye contact with her,
No
so
eye
maybe I
contact.
was, I don't know, didn't really want to communicate. I was just running through
Yeah.
the words in order
Yeah.
to get past it.
Or say that again to me. How are you doing?
Just regular.
Yeah, and
All
I'll
right.
say I'm good again, just like I said, I'm good.
Okay. Hey, how you doing?
So good. I'm so good.
That's the way she is
like
every
that.
single day. That's the way
That's
it is.
normal.
Yes.
Or this one, ask me how I'm doing.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good.
That's like all of our teenage kids.
Oh, I'm good. So you see, I'm telling him like I'm smarting off. I'm asking him to seek me out. I'm hurting and I'm happy. All this in the same 2 words. I'm good. So 93% of what you're saying, nonverbal, that's where you need to realize how important it is. You already understand nonverbal communication, but you need to not, it's not about understanding it. It's about operating correctly with your nonverbal communication. You know how to say, you know how to say I've had it. And you also know how to say I love you. You already know how to do that with your nonverbal communication. Now we need to become aware of it and start practicing. So a lot of things, how you're holding your face, very important. Eye contact.
Eye contact, whether you're actually facing each other when you're talking.
Right. So there are these areas right here is where you need to focus. How you're holding your body. Because we may not even realize, I've seen couples and the shoulders are in. So they're like not even like really acknowledging each other. And they're saying, I don't want you to be a part of my life right now.
Right.
Whereas when you have an open body posture, or this, you're closed off.
Yeah, just
Or you've
actually,
been crossing
I mean,
your legs. And sometimes this is really good because you could be doing this and say, whoa, this is how I'm feeling right now. I didn't even realize it. Like your body
Right.
can teach you.
Right. This is a symbol of being closed off and not really wanting to communicate.
Yeah.
And even though, and the funny thing is that most people will say, yeah, this is very comfortable. That's, well, of course it's comfortable. It's because you're sort of pulling yourself
People
back.
like to be
and
to themselves.
They like to be to themselves. It's just sort of a natural instinct. So,
Yeah.
you know, acknowledging and seeing some of those different ways that your posture, you know, slumping over when you're talking or standing up straight when you're doing that actually has...
Blair mentioned posture. That's a huge thing. So it's body, how you're holding your body, your posture. This means I'm down, I don't really want to engage. Whereas shoulders back, chin up, back straight means I'm engaged. I'm engaged with you. Eyes, where you're holding your eyes. Going out to the side means, you know, I'm thinking about what I'm saying to you, or, you know what, I'd rather be somewhere else.
Right.
So eye contact is so vital in communication with your spouse.
That one's that's a tough one for me because I like to think about what I'm getting ready to say, and it's interesting because I'm having a conversation with somebody. I can also be having a conversation with myself as to what I'm going to be saying next.
We actually had, remember, and I would like, when he would be in a conversation, I would just give him a gentle hand squeeze to remind him to have eye contact.
Right.
Because that was such a hard skill for you to learn.
I can
You have a total conversation, Daddy.
I'll be looking up in the sky and down at the ground, and then they're like, hey, I'm over here.
Yeah, true. And that's telling the person, I'd rather just have a conversation with myself right now. You're just here to be a placeholder. So.
And it isn't necessarily intentional, but that's what it's reading as to the individual that you're talking to.
Let me ask you this. When you started becoming aware of that, how hard was it to change your habits?
It's something that I continually work on, right?
Yeah.
And so when I don't work on it and let it go away, or for example, I'm not with a lot of people for a period of time, I can slip back into it, right? And I'm doing it right now as I said.
No judgment zone.
Right. But as I said earlier on, it's about the practice. It's about continually doing it. It's about staying with the practice every single day, and it becomes more and more natural. And
it's like that first tortilla. Sometimes it feels weird, it's awkward.
But the acknowledgement of, hey, that's what I'm doing. Oh, yes, I'm talking to somebody that I respect and I like to spend time with. I'm going to make sure that I'm looking straight at them right into their eyes.
So eyes, your voice. how you're speaking.
Yep.
Also, how we already talked about it, face, but also your space.
Yep.
How you fill up your space. Sometimes when you feel like I don't want to engage with you, you'll make your space small. You'll turn your feet in, you'll turn your knees in, you'll bring your arms in tight. Whereas your personal space, when you widen it, when you're more open, then you're saying, I want you to be part of my world.
Right.
You're welcoming them in. So again, this is like that first tortilla. It can feel awkward to try to hold your body a certain way. But when you get used to this and you start, I mean, how hard was it when you're 7 kids teaching them how to brush their teeth?
Oh, yeah.
It was always weird for them,
Yeah.
you know? But now, hopefully, we can pray that they can brush their teeth pretty well.
I would hope so.
But when you're starting out with anything, it feels awkward. It felt awkward. I learned how to do Heelys. I was falling all over the place. I was sore, still sore for days.
Right.
And so when you're first learning how to do something, it feels awkward and you
Yep.
mess up and you feel like, am I ever going to get this right? But like Blair said, put it into practice.
Yep. And just continually go after it. Make a, even at the beginning, if it has to be specifically at this time of day, I'm going to think through these things. I'm going to practice some of these techniques. It's just doing it on a daily basis, and the repetition will eventually cause it to become sort of a normal habit.
And you'll have to remind yourself, oh, let me uncross, or
Right.
let me give him my eyes.
Right.
Let me open up more. So at first it may feel awkward, but also understand this. The mind-body connection is huge. And when you start to consciously work on your body language, your voice,
Yep.
your face, your eyes, opening up your space, your posture, when you start doing that, you are actually, you don't even know this, but subconsciously, you're telling your mind, I'm open to this person. I receive this person. I welcome this person into my world.
Yep.
It works both ways. Your body posture can give your subconscious a negative message about the person you're with, or intentionally changing it can give your subconscious a positive message about the person you're with.
Right.
So it's, again, kind of goes back to that internal communication, how your body is communicating with your mind.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
cool. I love this. I love this.
So let's
okay.
talk about verbal.
Verbal communication. Now, Matthew 15:11. I want to read this to you. This is what Jesus said. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them. Thank goodness, because you might have to eat that fish taco, and I don't know you don't like fish. But what comes out of their mouth, that is what defiles them. So what Jesus was saying is like, look, you guys are more concerned with what's going in your mouth, whether like you're supposed to eat the right foods on the right day and whether it's a holy food or not. And you guys are talking trash. Like you guys are speaking curses to one another out of judgment. And so what we need to be aware of is that we get so concerned with the little bits and pieces. Have you crossed all the T's? Have you dotted all the I's? And we're overlooking what is most important, what is coming out of our mouth, because the tongue has a power of good and evil. It has the power of life and death. That's what the word says. Tongue has power of life and death. Are you going to bring life into your marriage, or are you going to speak death over your marriage? So the tongue is so powerful. The Bible actually refers to it as a rudder. It can direct a huge ship. So if you're going to direct this ship called your marriage to safe, healthy, wonderful waters, you have to use that rudder. You
Yep.
have to use your tongue.
Yep.
And you have to be very aware of how you're speaking. So we have 10 commandments of verbal communication. And we were talking about this last night, how the practice of it.
Oh yeah, to continually, trying and practicing as you go. And this is, again, for 27 years we've been doing this on the daily. And these are 10 different commandments that I think, again, as you have an opportunity to practice them, you'll notice some of them are like, I do that all the time. But there'll be a lot of them that you're like, wow, I never thought about it that way before. So.
But you don't have to fight the battles. Like if you're at that level with a marriage, and there's 2 danger areas. One is combative, and one is just lackadaisical. Yeah. You're like roommates. So either way, you're fighting battles.
Yeah.
And you can either fight the battles, or you can stay in training.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, the people who are winning the wrestling matches and the boxing matches, they don't just show up at the ring and fight.
Right.
They're
They're
training.
constantly training.
Yeah.
Constantly training. And there's different levels of training that they do, and that's
Right.
what this whole program is about, is showing
Right.
you all the different areas.
Right,
to
and this
continue to
is
work on
the
on a daily.
basics. This
Yep.
is the basics right here. And this is verbal communication, how to train yourself to be a master communicator and create a master marriage.
Number
so
one.
number one is to be intentional with communication. The average, like I said, the average couple spends less than 20 minutes a week talking.
Mm-hmm.
That is because it has become unintentional.
Right.
You're just, you set it on autopilot and you drift. And if you set it on autopilot, there's no telling what kind of waters you're going to drift into.
Right.
You know, it's usually you're gonna end up shipwrecked.
Right. You won't have a well, to use your analogy there, sort of, a harbor that you can
Yeah.
come into that allows you to be able to share and intentionally be able to communicate with your spouse and your family, so that everybody feels respected and wanted and needed.
Right. And we're going to talk about that, the edification part. That's so important. But number one is be intentional.
Yep.
Make it a habit. Make it something you do daily, not just, what was it, 4 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Not just 3 or 4 minutes here and there, but make it something that you do on the daily. So every morning we have time together.
Yep.
We have, we look over our finances together. We talk together. We just share what we're going to be doing that day. And it's a really great time. We also go walking every single evening, just me and you.
Yep.
And so that's like a good, how long does it take us to go on a walk?
Probably about 30 or 40
30,
minutes.
40
that's
minutes.
that's
Yeah.
something that we've set aside for ourselves
Right.
to do. And that it actually is great, because as we're going along and talking with each other, when we're done with the 40 minutes, it feels like we were out there for 10.
Yeah.
But
Depends on how cold it is.
we've heard about how our days went, but we also talk about what we're going to be doing and what we're thinking about doing next. Which is always a really strong, and it's an intentional exercise.
Yeah.
It's something. Some days I know Hannah doesn't want to get up and go on a walk because there's other things to do. And when we actually get up and actually go fulfill that, when we're done with it, we feel great.
Yeah.
And we feel like we've really connected.
It's that first you make your habits, then your habits make you.
Yep.
So it always is weird starting out a new habit, starting out a new routine. Always feels weird. But when you're intentional about this and make time, set aside time to engage in communication with your partner, it starts to become natural.
Natural, right.
So number one is be intentional. Number two is assume 100% responsibility. A lot of people think marriage is a 50-50 deal.
Nope.
And that's not it at all. So when I say assume 100% responsibility, that means you cannot accuse your partner of anything. You have to assume 100% responsibility. And you can say, my partner makes me feel so frustrated. He makes me sad. He makes me so angry. No, you choose to feel that emotion. We just need to, this is not your typical like, oh, let me pat you on the back. This is like the tough stuff, and that's why you're here. We don't want to give you stuff to pacify you and to make things okay. We want to create a change in your life. We want to create a transformation. So that happens with facing some hard truths. And one of those is you have to assume 100% responsibility for your emotions. And sure, maybe your spouse does do things that irritate you. Maybe he or she does have a lot of faults. But this is what I tell my kids all the time. We talk about guarding your joy bank, that you have a bank of joy. And you have to guard that. You can't just let anyone reach in and rob you of that joy. You have to assume 100% responsibility. They can be a loser, whatever. But you are responsible for your emotions. I know that's tough.
That's tough.
That is tough.
But you are, and there are situations where that becomes very, very difficult to take responsibility, right? But it's about you. It's not taking responsibility for the actions of others. It's about taking responsibility for the joy that you have in your heart.
I'm not closing off my physical presence to you. I'm just checking the fish tacos. I'm going to go ahead and take out the fish because it is done.
Okay.
And oh my gosh, that looks so good. I'm going to let that sit for a minute while we cover a few more, and then I'll bring it up here and let you see it. The chicken has probably about 5 or 10 more minutes. So one thing I wanted to share, and we're very transparent. We feel that we're not helping you if we're not.
Right.
We're very raw, very transparent. So one thing, you have a higher tendency to stress than I do. And there have been times when you want to share that burden of stress with me. And I've said, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be stressed. Like that's not part of my life.
Right.
And how do you feel when that happens? Because we want to be very raw with them.
Yeah. Well,
and like, does that frustrate you?
Sometimes it can. Sometimes it can frustrate, just depending on what the situation is. But it also, for me, in the medium term, I guess in long term, as I'm thinking about those situations, it actually opens me up to, well, wait a minute. There's probably a different way to approach that. And so perhaps next time when things start getting to be a little bit stressed, I can back up and say, wait a minute, this is the way I saw my spouse handling a situation.
Yeah.
Maybe I should approach it that
but
way.
you don't have to play their game.
She doesn't have to. She doesn't ever play my game. But sometimes that's part of my personality, where a situation will stress me out.
It's like,
getting
getting
the kids
things ready
to leave,
the
go.
rush, and I'm like, I'm not going to participate.
Right.
But on the other hand,
but
I
she's
have
helping
a tendency.
the situation. She's helping to get things ready to go as well.
Yeah.
But she's approaching it.
I'm not bringing the
approaching it
emotion.
Right. She's approaching it with a different emotion. In her case, it would be joy and happiness, and making it more fun. But then
I have a tendency to become fearful. I'll be like, oh no, is this going to work out? And how are we going to pay this bill? And then you have to step in and what I want, like what my baby side of me, like the spoiled baby in me, like his spoiled baby wants me to be like, I know, we need to stress out.
Right.
My spoiled baby wants him to be like, I don't know how we're going to pay the bills. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But someone has to be the grown-up, and sometimes I know you feel like you always have to be the grown-up. It's cool. That's cool, because sometimes you do. Now, especially if you're doing this alone, it's cool. We got you. So when my spoiled baby inside wants to be fearful and worry about not necessarily that stress, but that fear, well, basically they're the same thing, but like, oh no, how is this going to turn out? What the unknown? And then you have to step in and say, what are you, like, scared? Like, why are you even like entertaining that? Like, sorry, I'm not gonna be stressed. I'm not gonna be fearful.
Right.
And that makes me say, oh, that's stupid, and shut my little spoiled baby up, so I can be more mature about this. So that's part of assuming 100% responsibility, because no one can make you feel something you don't already have the capacity to believe about yourself. So if you do feel angry, sad, frustrated, you have to think, do I have that in me anyway? And I'm just using my spouse to validate it. I'm stepping on toes.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
All
right.
That's what we're here to do.
Yes, we're here to step on your toes, which brings us to number 3, stop playing games.
Yep.
So many games. We try to read each other's minds. We try the silent game. I don't know if anyone's ever done the silent treatment, but that has got to be the most immature action.
Oh, sure.
Because what you're saying to that person when you're doing the silent treatment is like, please notice me. Please reach out and touch me. Please acknowledge me. Please open up the door so I can berate you.
Right. Or please try to figure out what is making me so upset so that I can go off.
Right.
Right. It's just a silly game. It doesn't get anybody anywhere.
Leave the games in the nursery school, because you don't need them in a marriage. Games do not work in a marriage. Well, we'll talk about some later, but that do. No, but the communication games. You are a grown butt man and woman.
A grown
butt. I can't say that. But you are a grown up. You're an adult. You've grown out of the game. So the silent treatment, the mind reading, you should know how I feel by the way I'm responding to you.
Right.
And you should ask me. One of the greatest things you can do, one of the most loving acts you can do for your spouse, is to be open and to be honest. and to learn what we're going to learn about the skills in communicating that honesty.
Yeah.
Because
Games don't get you anywhere. They just make you more upset, and they actually divide you even further from each other.
And that also brings us to that number one, intentional communication.
Yep.
You have to be real. You have to be honest. You make communication intentional. And just when you find yourself, and this is the funny thing, is when you find yourself playing a game, you've caught yourself in the act of it, it's like, I don't want to back down though.
Right.
Because then I've admitted to myself and to my spouse
I'm playing a game.
that I'm playing a game. So the thing, like, the enemy wants us to get trapped in a game. And he's like, oh, if, we'll get this message. It's like, well, if you talk now, if you open up now, if you do something nice now, if you say something nice now, you lost. No, you lost when you decided to participate in a game.
Right.
That was when you lost, not when you rescue yourself from it and grow up and talk about things in a mature way. So, number 4 is to throw out the mold.
Yep.
Now we're in the marriage kitchen, right. So have you ever found something in the fridge? Like, who hasn't, right? That's moldy and
oh yeah.
You don't
Absolutely.
keep that.
Well, yeah. Whenever we have family come in to visit for holidays or what have you, you got to.
And then the cranberry relish is way in the back.
You have all this great food and everything goes in there in the fridge, and they get forgotten.
Yeah.
After a few days, oh my goodness.
It's so gross. So I know you found something in your fridge that's super disgusting, covered in mold. You throw it out, right? But something weird happens in marriage where we have this spouse mold, and we think our spouse has to conform to this mold in order for us to accept and love them fully, and in order for us to be loved by them fully. So we have a mold for ourselves too, and I think it's gotten worse recently because of social media, and we see everyone's highlight reel, and also we compare it to our blooper reel, and well, this person's husband posed with her on the beach, and look, they look so cute together. You don't know what happened before they took that picture, girl. So what I'm saying is, sometimes we have a mold. If my husband loved me, he would fill in the blank. Or if my wife loved me, she would fill in the blank. We were talking about this last night, the preconceptions we have of what a good spouse should be. And we need to throw that out, because we've all seen the Disney movies. We've all seen that there's always a hero. There's always a villain. And more than likely, the hero has a partner, right? Well, what I want, like what? Like a sidekick, right? So any Disney movie, any animated movies, like you have the hero, the sidekick, and you have a villain. What happens when you have a mold and you're trying to hold your spouse to that mold, you've become the villain, because now you're focusing on the flaws. And the villain in a movie or in a story is always trying to find out what can break the hero.
Right.
Where are his flaws? Like Superman, oh, kryptonite, yeah, that makes him weak. Like, you always want to find the flaws. And the sidekick is always there to cover the flaws and to protect the hero. Your spouse needs to be your hero. Vice versa. It's not like this is a husband-wife separate thing. Your spouse needs to be your hero. And you need to pull out of that role of the villain, where you're always finding out why they're not enough, or what they're doing wrong, or how they could be better. But you need to move into the role of the partner.
Yep.
And covering that and finding the things that are right. I think one way to get out of this whole mold, this spouse mold thing, like if my husband loved me, he would do this. If my wife loved me, she would be like this, is gratitude.
Yeah.
There's always something you can be grateful for.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a big, gigantic thing. It can be, maybe you're just grateful by virtue of the fact that you have a wonderful family together, right? And acknowledging that in your head, and maybe even vocalizing that with your spouse is it's a powerful thing.
Yeah,
right? And it goes a long way.
It is.
And like I said, it doesn't have to be a big thing. Maybe your spouse made you a cup of coffee in the morning before heading off to work or something like that. Just being so grateful for the little things.
And sometimes it starts out like you have to look hard. Like if you're having a hard time in your marriage, I remember when we first got married, and like I said, we were very honest, and I'm sorry I'm going to throw you under the bus for just a second.
This is why I'm on the show.
But
because
when,
it's a criminal bus.
when we first got married, he remember he told you he loves to clean up.
Yeah.
He enjoys having a clean space and he works on that.
Now
He wasn't like
I wasn't
this
like that.
initially. When we first got married, I remember seeing dirty underwear and dirty clothes on the floor of the bathroom and being like, what the heck? If he loved me, he'd be picking this up. But then I turned it to gratitude. And I started to say, I'm so grateful for his presence.
Mm-hmm.
The dirty laundry on the floor reminds me that he is here, that
Oh,
he is
he is
engaged.
here.
He's here. But that took a while. But I don't think it would have happened if I'd harped on that
Right.
and nagged on that.
Right.
It was when you saw that I was plugged in and I
Right.
was covering your flaws that you came through. So it's just something important to remember about being, are you going to be the partner or the villain? Because really there's no perfect mold. You do not know what everyone on social media is going through. You don't know what their backstory is. So don't compare their highlight reel to your blooper reel. And every marriage has a blooper reel.
every marriage does, and we have an extensive one.
And we air
we
it all.
We probably published it.
I'm sure it's been published somewhere. Okay, now number 5 is to hear it from their best place.
Yep.
Now, what we mean by this is when someone says something to you, when your spouse is communicating something to you, when they say something to you, this also plays into playing a game. Don't read into it. Don't think, well, wait, does that mean blah, blah, blah? Hear it from their best place, where they're coming from. And if you give them the benefit of the doubt, if they're and what did you talk about last night? If you came in and you're like, well, I guess you didn't do the laundry again.
Right.
Yeah, he may be bothered that I didn't do the laundry, but hear it from the best place. You know what? I know he loves me and he's just trying to find some clean clothes to wear tomorrow. I'm not going to read anything into it, thinking that he's judging me or he's disappointed in me or anything like that. So don't let your own heightened sense of insecurity cause you to read into what your partner is saying to you. Hear it from their best place.
Hear it from the best possible place. And again, like Hannah said, it ties back into the stop playing games. As she said, well, I guess you didn't do any laundry today. That was, the line is there as a first roll of the dice in the game that they're getting ready to play. If you can stop for just a second and think through, well, this is where they're coming from, then that may help to sort of assuage any kind of game that gets started at that point. And
Have you
sort of
ever
push it aside.
said anything that comes out, you're like, why did that just come out?
Why did I just say that? Yep.
Why did that just come out of my mouth? So they probably, it could be inadvertent. They couldn't even be thinking about it. You've done stupid things before.
Sure.
So give grace, give mercy. It's just so necessary. Now, number 6, conflict occurs with the response, not the remark.
Yes.
And this is what we mean by this. In Proverbs 15:1, it says, a soft answer turns away wrath. By using the word answer in that verse, that's talking about the response. An answer is something that you give to another comment, to another remark, to another question. So conflict, if your marriage currently is suffering from conflict and fighting and arguing, the point of conflict occurs not when someone, I allude to you, but not when someone has made a remark, but when you have made a response.
Right.
So someone can say something, and that is true in a marriage, as is in a friendship, and your family, whatever. Conflict occurs on the response level.
Right. So using the example that we were just talking about, I walk into the room and say, "Oh, it looks like you haven't done the laundry." That's the conflict has not started.
It hasn't
yet.
started. I have a choice.
Right. You can engage in a conflict with your
It's like, well, I don't see you doing anything around the house.
conflict started.
Conflict.
Yes.
Or I can say, you know what? You're right. I didn't get to it. I'm sorry for that, and I'm going to go start a load right now because I really want you to have something to wear tomorrow. Guaranteed, they're going to feel like
What?
poop because I was looking to get in a fight and they didn't engage. they responded with kindness. A soft answer turns away wrath. Wrath can come at you. People have bad days. I don't know how many times you've come home and I've been like, oh my gosh, I want to stick all these kids in school. I'm tired of homeschooling them. They drive me crazy. Okay, he came home to wrath. He could combat it.
I could combat with, well, you wouldn't believe the day that I had, and then come back at her with all these things I want to dump onto her.
Well, let me pull out my list.
Yeah, exactly. And all that does is just, it initiates a conflict that can go for the rest of the evening and beyond.
Yeah.
Right? And create chasms in your relationship.
You always have a choice.
Yeah.
At the response level, you have a choice.
And that's specifically happened with both of us on both sides. I mean, the example being, one of us is just, they're fed up and they're sick and tired about a particular situation and voices it. The other one has had a difficult day or a difficult situation themselves and realizes the moment that the initial spoken word about the initial problem comes to bear, the choice that you can make inside is like, okay, wait a minute, I could. The door's wide open. You can walk right through it. Just spew out all kinds of not nice things to say about my day and all that. Or back up and just say, okay, well, wait a minute, let me see, is there something that I can do to help make her feel a little bit better? And just, even if it isn't a full solution, because sometimes you can't fully solve.
You can't solve it.
But you can take a step with your spouse in that particular issue.
Yeah.
It's amazing how far that goes into bringing you guys even closer and closer together. It really is a very powerful, powerful thing to do.
It's so good. It's basically like turn toward instead of turning away.
Right.
Like make that response. Be intentional with it.
Yep.
Now, number 7 is to listen in love. That's so important. Proverbs 22:17 says, incline your ear onto understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means, to incline your ear into understanding, is that means you are listening to understand. You're listening for insight, not for interruption. And I'm sure, we were joking about this too, like, have you ever talked with someone and you can tell, like, they're not hearing anything you say.
Right.
They're just looking for the opportunity for you to take a breath so they can say something.
Yeah, absolutely.
we all know that. We all know that situation. You can see it in their eyes. Nothing's going in. They just have a thought in their head and they're just waiting because they want to say it.
If I occasionally will see Hannah ready to do that, I can see it in her eyes. I'll just keep talking. I know what she wants to do. I'll just keep talking so that we don't actually get to that point. But
yeah, thank you.
You can't
You're
go
so
forever,
kind.
right?
You're so kind. So what we mean by this is, when your spouse is talking,
right,
don't be formulating, because the mind can only hold one thought at a time. You can do a lot of things at one time, but the mind can only hold one thought at a time. You can switch back and forth between thoughts. But if you're thinking and formulating your response, you're not really engaged in listening to what they're saying to you.
right.
So communication is so much more listening than it is talking. The better you get at listening, the better you're going to get at communication in general.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to listen to understand. Now, something that, just to help you with a little trick here, something you can say. And this is good practice as you learn to read each other better.
Mm-hmm.
We can read each other like a book. Like, we know each other, all these,
each other's
sentences.
Sandwiches.
So, fish tacos.
That's right.
So,
No,
I know, chicken for you. So, when, as you're learning the skill of listening, one thing to say is, so what I'm hearing is this. Mm-hmm. So help me understand you better. What I'm hearing is this. Not to be rude, because you can't say, okay, so what I'm hearing
Right. Well,
is...
there goes your...
Look at the body language, right?
Your nonverbal.
So, but to be honest and to say, okay, I want to understand you better.
Right.
What I'm hearing is that this is bothering you, or you desire this,
Mm-hmm.
or this is where you're heading. Like, really try to crawl in their heads, not playing mind games, crawl in their heads with communication and say,
Right.
tell me, this is what I'm hearing. Am I right?
Right.
Help me understand you better.
With authenticity, right?
Yes,
So
be
being
authentic about
very,
it.
very authentic about how you approach that, because if you don't, it just looks like you're trying to play a game.
Yeah,
that
no
point.
games. We are
No
Grown
games.
butt people.
Right.
Okay.
Grown butt people.
Number 8, more I, less you.
Yep.
That's basic verbal communication. More I, less you.
Yep.
When you feel
That's kind
like
of weird.
a victim.
It's kind of weird because a lot of times you'll hear people saying it's not about me, it's about
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
There's no I in team. There's
Yeah, yeah,
But this is
true.
the flip. It's
It's the
more
flip.
I,
Yeah.
less you. And what
And
does that
that
mean?
goes back to taking
What does that mean?
100% responsibility.
Well, yeah, it does. But how does that?
So,
What does that
okay,
mean?
so a lot of times if your marriage is struggling, you have a tendency to be accusatory and say, you are doing this wrong. You need to be like this. You need to change.
Mm-hmm.
But just that little tweak, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Instead of saying, you need to start helping out around the house more, if you just twist it, I would really, really appreciate it if you could help me fold this laundry. I really love it when I see you engaging with the kids around the house. It just brings me so much joy. I feel so honored to just be able to share my life with you. Like, just if you can focus on the I, and even when you want to make changes. So maybe you don't like the way your husband wears that Miller Lite t-shirt every day. So you can say, you know what, I love it when you wear these kind of shirts. You look so good in it. So why are you wearing that ugly Miller Lite t-shirt every single weekend with the
Like I said,
pit
we're not
stains?
allowed to go after the brands here.
Oh, I know, you're
Miller
right.
Lite's a fine brand.
So is Miracle Whip.
So is Miracle Whip.
But so that's what I mean. Just that little, say I, and then see if you can follow it in a constructive, affirming, kind way.
Right, and again, one of the aspects of this that I really like is that it as a receiver of a statement like that, as somebody, if you're saying, well, I really, really like the kinds of shirts that you wear, it makes me say, well, gosh, I want to go get some more of those shirts. Because
Yeah.
she kind of likes me in those things.
Amazon
That's pretty
Prime,
cool.
baby.
Well, another brand. But the point is that it is an affirming type of a statement for the
Yeah.
one that's receiving
Yeah.
it. I really, and one thing that I always try to remember to do, and actually I think I do a pretty good job, is, I come home and we'll have meals in the evening, we'll have meals at lunchtime if I happen to be here, and Hannah does a lot of work to prepare the great things that we have. I mean, stuff that we're doing here. I always want to make sure that I thank her for it and tell her how much I appreciate the meal that we just had, right? And while I'm cleaning the dishes or doing whatever I'm doing. And I know that is something that, you can just see it in her eyes.
Yeah, just like
Afterwards,
I will
can-
make meals all day, baby. If
Right.
you do
Right,
with that kind of treatment.
But it's one of those things where rather than saying, you make a ton of meals and they're really great, honey, that's awesome. That does nothing for her. But when I'm like, you've made my life better because you
Yeah.
work so hard at making
Yeah.
wonderful meals for me, because I can only cook a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It actually is something I know that the affirmation that you feel as a person receiving that
Yeah,
is
totally.
really, really strong.
It totally is. So more I, less you. We don't want to ever be the villain and attack the person. We want to take full responsibility and start it with I.
Yep.
So, and be authentic with that. Now, number 9 is to pour on the frosting. Marriage without, it's like, do you want a cupcake marriage or a muffin marriage? Because without the frosting, a cupcake is just a muffin. So when I say pour on the frosting, nothing blesses someone more than just edification.
Mm-hmm.
To acknowledge them, to speak life over them. And that's so important. There's a verse, John 1:5, the light shines in the darkness and the darkness can never extinguish it.
Yep.
So if you think about it, when God created the world, it was all dark, it was all void, and he said, let there be light. That was when it changed. He didn't curse the darkness.
Right.
He spoke light into being. And so instead of cursing the darkness and instead of complaining about the situation, bring light to it. Pour on the frosting. Speak with kindness. You can be an agent of change. And the thing is, you can't, darkness can't drive out darkness. Only a positive can drive out a negative.
Right.
And so if you're in a negative environment, no matter what state your marriage is in, if it's in a negative condition, you can bring in the positive. If it's in a positive condition, bring in more positive. And that will create such a change in a marriage when you just decide, when you make a conscious choice decision that you're going to be the agent of change. You're going to bring light to this situation. You're going to speak life, compliments. You have that power. The tongue has the power of life and death, and you can use that in your marriage.
Right. And as an example, I'm a person that really likes to follow a schedule. That's just my lifestyle. Hannah is one that she'll jump up and think that we're going to do all this stuff today, and then her entire day changes, and she's grateful for that, and she has a great time. That sometimes for me,
and we're going to talk about the 4 personalities.
Oh, we're going to talk about different
we're going to talk about
that. But my point is that I can get into ruts, if you will, as perceived by other people in my family, because I like doing the same thing over and over.
He's a routine guy.
Very, very, very routine oriented. But there was a time when Hannah, she just started to edify what it was that was positive about what I am and what I am all about, talking about. It's, you know what, we wouldn't make it to church on time if you weren't here, or we wouldn't be able to get everybody ready for school, or we wouldn't be able to, do the normal things right. Yeah, and being very gracious about that. But it made me very happy, but at the same time, it also made me think a little bit about what am I grateful about with Hannah. And what I like is occasionally those surprises, let's go do something we weren't planning on doing, or let's go to this place that we didn't have any intention of going to. After it's over with, I'm like, wow, that was really fun. So what I work on, and what those simple communications about how she loved the fact that I was a very structured individual made me think about, wow, what are some ways that I can make my life just a little bit less structured so it's more exciting for her. So the result of the edification can be very, very positive.
It's huge.
So
you have such power,
right,
that I don't think people even are aware of the power they have in the spoken word.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah. So number 10 is to have your scripts ready. Now, you do have a script book. We gave this to you as a bonus. And this is your go-to, because sometimes you don't know what to say.
Right.
Sometimes you get caught in a game. Sometimes you're angry.
Right.
And
well, especially if you have habits that are some of the things we're speaking against. Again, game playing. That can be a habit that has been in your marriage for years.
And you may have seen it in your parents' marriage.
Right, exactly.
And thought, well, I guess that's how marriage works.
It's gonna take a little time and a little effort and some practice to get yourself to a point where avoiding those situations is easy. At the outset, it might not be so much, right? So having some of these words and thoughts inside the script book can help you to practice some of those different elements right at the outset.
Yeah. So we gave you the script book that have several lines in there. That's your go-to. Now, we were talking about this last night. It's important to make this authentic. It's not just something that you just speak without, right, this is just my go-to, I'm just going to say it. But you have to put heart into it. So something like, if you're getting caught up in conflict, I love you, I just need a minute.
Yeah.
I just need a minute. Or maybe something else you can say is, you know what, the way I would respond to you right now is not positive. So I'm going to leave for just a few minutes so I can just think. I just need to think for a little bit.
Right.
And another one is, here's what I'm hearing. You can interrupt a conflict with touch. First of all, we're gonna talk about that actually in our next module.
Yep.
But the power of touch. And just say, here's what I'm hearing. Be open, not defiant. And maybe by being that sounding board, you can resolve the conflict by just saying, but maybe your spouse wasn't intending to say anything damaging to you, but in your honesty, you can help diffuse that. So I love you, I just need a minute. Or what we said before is, the way I would respond to you right now is
it's not positive.
It's not positive.
Right.
So I just need to go and think about this for a minute. Or here's what I'm hearing. But do it in a loving, authentic way.
It has to be authentic. If it's not authentic, if it's done with any kind of anger or sort of an inappropriate attitude towards it,
Right.
then it comes off incorrect, and it doesn't necessarily aid in the situation that you may need to
Right.
use those lines. So,
Right.
but there's more lines. There's more things in
Yes.
there to talk about. So
Yeah,
definitely check those out. Definitely,
Yeah.
especially if this is very new to you, and these are a lot of thoughts that you're like, wow, I never thought about it that way. Definitely go through them and look at them and utilize
Yeah, this
the-
is your go-to. This is like us in your back pocket. Have you ever seen those movies? Hey, grab that bowl there. I'm going to put the slaw in it. Have you ever seen those movies where someone has someone in their ear, and they're giving them the lines to say?
Yes.
Like the secret agent movies, and they're just like overhearing. Okay, so that's what this script book is. We're in your back pocket. We're in your ear. We're like, dude, chill. Girl, chill. Like, this is what you need to say right now. So make sure you don't just like overlook that bonus, because it's a huge bonus.
It is.
It's very valuable. Okay, so we're going to enjoy this. We got a few more things to say, just wrapping it up, but I think we need to enjoy some of this. So grab some spoons and forks. Let me bring up the tortillas here. We can see those tortillas. Oh, they look so good. And the chipotle sauce. You've got the sauce. Awesome. Now, what we can do with the chicken, now, first of all, with the fish, you want to flake the fish and just like spread it apart and flake it out like that. And with the chicken, you can just, yeah, that looks so good. With the chicken, you can just slice it or you can shred it. It doesn't matter. So also you can even shred this and make a taco sauce and put it over it. That's really good too. So you want to try a chicken one and I'll try a fish one?
Sure.
And we'll tell them a couple more things that they need to remember.
Let's talk about the tortillas. What did we see at the one
Oh,
restaurant?
that's so cool. So these tortillas, so we're using one tortilla. But if you've ever had like a taco truck, been at like a taco truck or something like that, you'll notice that they always give you 2 tortillas.
Right.
They always serve the tortilla. Oh, we need,
And the reason that they serve you 2 tortillas is that most of the time, if you have one tortilla with all of the different sauces, the toppings that you put on there, if you like tomatoes on it, they're nice and wet, and they'll actually
wet, yeah.
soak right through the tortilla and into your hand, so you lose the flavor and you get messy.
I was trying to squirt that sauce out and didn't take off the top.
Oh, that would have been a problem.
Yeah, that would have been a problem.
So they'll put a second tortilla underneath it to help you stay nice and
Okay, we got to
clean,
try this
and
out. There's one more thing we need to tell them.
You're gonna eat it? Well, I can't tell them if you're eating.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Is it good?
It's so good. Oh, that sauce
love
is
this.
like
This is
just
my
spicy
favorite.
enough. Woo! It's got some kick to it. It's those chipotle peppers. All right, so we do have some homework for you to do. And we'll share this with you, but we also want you to make sure you are printing out the
I'm gonna
workbooks.
eat it.
Yeah, it's so good. It is spicy. We might need to hold back on all that chipotle. Maybe just one chipotle.
That's good.
It's so good. Need
So
a drink of
delicious.
water?
No, I'm good.
Okay, you good? All right. Yeah, it
It's a
is
nice
good.
cup.
Okay, so just a few little tips to wrap this up is if there is something you need to confront, if there's a situation that's damaging your marriage, please confront it when it's not an issue. Okay? Let me just throw out something. If your husband's notoriously late at the office, don't talk about this when he comes home late from the office.
Right.
Talk about this at a time that you're just enjoying being together. Our dog is literally right here between us. He smells it,
So I have
and he
to-
wants some of that. No, do not bring him out
He's,
here.
he's an additional cast member,
okay.
so stay down.
Okay, so another thing we want you to remember, don't approach the conflict when it's a conflict.
Right.
Approach it in a safe space.
Because you run into, just as we talked about before, you might bring it up in a very authentic and honest way. But again, the response that comes out of the person that you want to talk to might set off a conflict. That's because it's in a particular moment where
it's wrong moment.
they've got to know in their minds that they might be doing something that's not right. And so that's just going to make them defensive, and then everything goes off the rails at that
Wrong
point.
moment. Also, another thing, we want you to consciously try every day when you wake up to put a filter over your mouth. Like make that almost like you can visually see placing love filter over your mouth. So every word that comes out is going to be spoken in love.
Right.
It is like not even an issue. It will always be spoken in love. Another thing is, I'm sure you've heard when you have to deliver any type of, what's the word I'm searching for? A compliment sandwich. When you have to, no, when you have to deliver some hard news, a criticism,
in a poop
something like
sandwich?
that.
Is that what you
Yeah, I was like, we were talking about this, and I was like, hey Blair, you know how like people have always said, like deliver it in a compliment sandwich, like give someone a compliment, then give them the criticism, and then follow with a compliment. So I said, have you ever heard of that? He's like, in the office, that's not called a compliment sandwich. That's called something else, and it's a bad word. I'm like, oh my gosh. So a poop sandwich. If you think that's a smart way to deliver criticism in a marriage, you are so wrong.
Right.
Because that's a false system. It doesn't work. Because then when it's over, the person knows you were just trying to like criticize me. You were just trying to deliver some hard information, like honor me
Right.
by just being authentic.
Right.
That again goes into the playing games.
Right.
Let's grow up and let's quit playing the games. And yes, the compliment sandwich, no.
Some people are,
because you should always be complimenting,
right.
really.
Some people are very proficient at playing that particular game, the poop sandwich game. I know, people in my business career, and I'm sure you know some people in your business career that are very, very good at it, that actually give you and deliver very difficult news and make you happy about it when you walk out the room. And then you're like, hey, wait a minute, that wasn't right.
So does that mean they really didn't mean any of the positive things?
It makes your mind start wondering, are they being authentic at all?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just avoiding those kinds of little games. Even if you happen to be a person that is good at doing that kind of stuff, no, just be authentic.
Be authentic.
Be
Be real.
loving, and be very straightforward.
And the compliment should always be coming. Remember, that's what we talked about, is bringing that light into
Right.
the darkness. Always be edifying, always be complimenting, always be building up that person verbally.
Right.
Now, your homework today, number one, to create your affirmations. Remember we talked about the internal dialogue, and say them out loud daily or even hourly if you need to. Number two, make sure you have a daily check-in with your spouse. Remember we talked about the average couple talks less than 20 minutes a week. So both dogs now, they smell all the food. So have a daily check-in with your spouse where you can just talk.
Right.
And it may feel weird, the first tortilla kind of weird.
Well, an example, you and I talking about finances and stuff.
Yeah.
That actually is something that's really important to both of us. However, I was brought up in a household, although it was a completely loving household, great parents, all that kind of stuff. Finances was a subject you didn't talk about.
Yeah.
You just didn't. And that's probably not uncommon across a lot of
True.
families in this day and age. But it's necessary for us to make sure finances are in line. We've got a huge family. We've got lots of kids in school. We got all kinds of things going on like that. So we actually, in order to make it so that it wasn't such an intrusive monthly or bi-weekly conversation around bills or whatever, we created a quick daily conversation that we call the Money Minute.
Yeah.
And literally, we don't spend more than, maybe it's a couple minutes. But it's just a quick exercise that we check over finances on the daily, and it makes it so it's not stressful at all.
And so just have a daily check-in. Doesn't have to be over money, but just have a daily check-in.
Any subject. It
like
could
we go on a walk, like something like that.
Could be an affirmation check-in.
Yeah.
Hey, let me just tell you about, let me affirm you and the things that you're doing.
Can we start doing that? I love that.
Sure, let's do it.
I love it.
All right, new
okay,
lesson.
number 3 is the love filter, and that happens with gratitude, to start practicing that love filter.
Yep.
Now, in our next module, we're going to be talking about our secret codes. We have 7 secret codes that we've never shared before until now. And it's going to totally change everything about your marriage. We're going to keep on enjoying these tacos, and we're going to go back in our next module. Make sure you do your homework.
Do your homework.
This is not just, we did not do this to entertain you, because if you found this entertaining, then it must be hard up. But we did this to create change and to get results. So make sure you do your homework. If you're listening together, awesome. If you're listening by yourself, awesome, because you have the power to completely transform your marriage. We love you. We got your back, and we're fighting for you.
See you at the next module.